like.
What's up, G Show Land, and welcome to another episode of the G Show Podcast. I am G1, and this is the Geek Out, episode 27. We had to cut that one a bit short because, as you know, if y'all listened to the podcast earlier this week or even yesterday, depends on when I put it up, we had to redo the preview. We didn't redo the whole podcast from last week, but I had to redo the intro because I had about a minute and a half of the Exorcist theme playing in the background, and we got caught on some copyright infringements. So if you haven't checked out that episode, go check that out before you listen to this one, because it is the jump-off point for what we are doing in this month of October. And what is that we're doing? We're doing the G Show's, the Geek Out's top 5 horror movies, where each week we're going to pick one movie apiece, and at the end of the month, we're going to put all those movies together and see what stays and what goes to make up our definitive list, our definitive top 5 horror movies of all time. Who's going to do that with me? Let me introduce you to my panel. Joining us once again, the man, the myth, the legend, C. Monty, hailing out of NYC. What's up, my brother?
What's up, sir?
What's going on? And finally, we get him back from hiatus. We had to drag his ass out from a burrow hole in the ground because winter is coming and this monkey ass wants to hibernate. We got G95 Matt, my right hand. What's up, my brother?
I'm back from my imposed exile.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so here's the deal. This is what happened, ladies and gentlemen. We were, bigging up this whole big debate thing between Matt and Chris on the merits of Stephen King's It. But unfortunately, after viewing it several times, Matt has come to the conclusion it's just not as good. That Chris was right. Exactly. So by forfeit, Chris gets the W.
Exactly. More like. I just said it dropped out of my top 5. It's still a really good movie.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
We did promise y'all an It debate, but it seems like that is not going to happen anymore. Who knows? Maybe at the end of the year, that's where it'll probably come together when we do the top 10.
We can bypass this whole horror thing right now. This top 5, we can bypass that right now, and I can shut this shit down.
We're doing the top 5 because we don't have time to do it any other week. We will get to the It eventually, whenever Matt's up to it, but I don't think he's ever going to be. By the way, I just want to say this real quick. We are doing this over Google Hangouts right now. I'm sitting in the dark. Matt's sitting in the dark. Chris is somewhat in the dark. His light is on. But I just want to say, Matt, you look like a William Shatner Halloween mask.
Oh, thanks. I know I do look like just a floating head right now.
Yeah.
You probably say that to all the boys.
Maybe I do. All right, let's get on with the topics of the day. First things first, we're gonna do our one pick for the horror movies for the end. And then in the second half hour, we're going to get into our top 5 all-time favorite zombie movies and make a definitive top 5 list. So bear with us. We're going to rock and roll with this thing. All right, Matt, since you haven't been on for such a long time, and last week you chose The Thing as your number 1 pick, I'm going to let you go first. Give us your number 2 pick. So that right now you're in the lead here because me and Chris don't know what you're going to say. And you might pick something we're going to pick, and that means we're going to have to call an audible. But right now, Matt, what's your number 2 on your list?
The original Evil Dead.
Okay.
Yeah, do I have to go into explanation as to why?
Yes, you do. A small explanation.
Okay. Well, I don't know. It was one of the first horror movies that I saw that I sat down to watch and enjoy that truly scared the shit out of me. Probably back when I was in middle school or late elementary school. yeah, and it's just always really stuck with me as like a movie I was too scared to watch alone when I was that young that I watched willingly, and just the whole, what's become of the franchise since then and the careers it's launched with Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, and it's just it holds a very special place in my heart, and the cheesiness of it, the gore, the over the top aspect is, I don't know, I love it. It's amazing to me. I'm always in the mood to watch it.
That movie does hold up too. I do enjoy watching that movie every year. Chris, we're going to turn to you, brother. What is your number 2 pick?
This is interesting. Because this is probably the second week in a row where, like, I picked something where the other person went with the original version. Because I came in here to say I was going to go with Evil Dead Remake.
Wow, okay. Look at this shit right here. This is insane. I just want to say this is insane.
Now.
Shit.
I did have to choose one because I figured at some point someone was going to say the original Evil Dead, and as much as I love that movie and I would have went with it and everything, I love it for all the things that Matt said. But also, to a certain extent, I prefer my horror movies to be a little less campy. So, like, Evil Dead was cool for what it was with the campiness, and I can appreciate it for that. But if I'm sitting down to watch a horror movie, I want to be, like, horrified. I don't want, like, to be, like, there's always going to be little moments of levity, but I don't want to be, like, really laughing at a horror movie. So I think Evil Dead Remake kind of removed those elements from it, and I kind of appreciate it for that. It intensified the gore for me, personally. It's solid directing.
Yeah.
Solid acting. So, like, yeah, I just really dug what they did. Like, they took the original and they kind of built something new out of it, and I appreciated what they did with it.
That's 2 solid choices because, in all honesty, I really did enjoy that remake of Evil Dead. We spoke last week about the remakes of Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th. And while I enjoy Friday the 13th, hated Nightmare, Evil Dead, though, is top-notch, one of those better remakes, especially in the horror genre, where it's really kind of, with the exception of The Thing, it's kind of a miss, But, wow, look at that. We start off swinging for the fucking fences. Evil Dead and Evil Dead Remake, that is a really... Damn, man. You guys are right out the fucking gate. Okay. Well, then. Excuse me. Oh, man. It's taco. It was a taco day today, and it's all over the place, right? I think that's my horror movie. I'm going with, and it's kind of funny because it is the theme of the day, but I'm going to go with Night of the Living Dead, the 1990 version. Tom Savini's remake to George Romero's seminal classic, Night of the Living Dead. I mean, we spoke last week about Night of the Living Dead, or yesterday, whenever you listen to that podcast. We spoke about Night of the Living Dead being like that movie where it's black and white, but there was gore. It changed the game a bit from what we were used to seeing in horror films. The remake of Night of the Living Dead, like the remake of Evil Dead, while Night of the Living Dead 90 might be a little bit campy with some of the performances, and I'm talking about Cooper himself. There's a little goofy aspect to that character, but nothing that it takes me out of the movie. It's just visceral. The visuals are insane. Everything was brought up a notch, yet they kept the story exactly the same. They pretty much made the perfect remake in my book without it having to be shot for shot. They took a already great movie, and for me personally, they just amped it up to 10 or 11, and I've absolutely fallen in love with that movie. I watch it every year on Halloween, and it's nothing to take away from the original Night of the Living Dead. It's just that this one, Tom Savini, his, I guess, directorial debut, and his, of course, special effects, and the creature works, and everything just works for me. Everything just works for me. And I absolutely love it. I love the way the zombies look in this movie. I love the score of this movie. I just love it. And of course, Tony Todd. Who doesn't love Tony Todd? So that's my second pick for our upcoming top 5. Anybody?
The only flaw of the 1991 is the horrible underuse of Bill Moseley as Johnny.
Okay, yeah.
Because, like, Bill Moseley is awesome.
Listen, man, you play Johnny, you know what to expect. You're going to die.
True, but I just like Bill Moseley.
Yeah. Okay. Chris, anything about that?
It's been a while since I saw the 90 remake, so I can't, it's like not really in the recollection right now.
Gotcha.
Can't really make any comments.
I like the idea, too, that in the 90s, we had already, at that point in time, we had some strong female characters. We had Ripley, we had Sarah Connor, we had Red Sonja, okay? Just to name a few. And then they turned what was a bumbling, typical stereotyped damsel in distress into some hardcore action chick. And I really, really liked that. It was just a nice, welcome change that Barbara went from being the damsel in distress to give me the gun. Like, give me the gun. Yeah, so, again, that's one of the other reasons why I love that movie. It's just so good, man. The go, everything. It's just one of my all-time favorite movies. And the fact that it's a remake of Night, I don't know. That's my number 2. So we got 2 remakes, and we've got a classic in Evil Dead. Solid choices, man. Solid choices. I can't even lie. Shit, I can't wait to see where we go from here. We already got Nightmare and Evil Dead and The Thing up on this motherfucker. We've got Night of the Living Dead. Where do we go from here is the question. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, you probably know that there's still some things missing. We'll get to it eventually. But, yeah, listen, I ain't got nothing to say. I got nothing negative to say about either one of those movies, Evil Dead or the remake. I love them both. If you guys want to pick apart any of, well, Chris already said the cheese factor of Evil Dead 1, but still enjoyable. Matt, do you have anything you want to say about the remake, Evil Dead?
I will defend the cheesiness in the first Evil Dead as being somewhat unintentional, just due to the low budget. I mean, Evil Dead 2 is, obviously over the top,
yeah,
and ridiculous. But I think the original is a little bit less intentional. And I also do see a lot of campiness in the remake, but it's subtle. It's really subtle campiness. Like when the chick just hacks electric knives her arm off, and she's like, "Oh, I'm feeling much better right now," and then her arm just kind of plops to the floor. That shit's hilarious. But yeah, it's subtle. I love the remake, so I really can't pick it apart much. I think it's a really good movie. I'll pop it on from time to time. It's like you said, one of the few remakes that I really stand by. Yeah, you really can't do much wrong with Evil Dead. So yeah.
Wow, I can't wait to get to the week 5 when we have to debate and pick one of the two, because we're all in agreement. The remake is great. And then, of course, Evil Dead is Evil Dead. All right, well then. If Chris, you got nothing to say, I ain't got nothing to say.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to say on the topic.
All right, then. Look, we got our picks out the way. Our week 2 picks in order is Evil Dead Remake, and Night of the Living Dead Remake. So stay tuned for where we go from there. Let's get into the topic of this week, and that is the top 5 zombie movies. Matt's top 5, Chris's top 5, my top 5 favorite zombie movies, and then we'll pick and choose and see what makes the G Show's top 5. So, Chris, I'm going to let you go first.
Okay. So, I'm going to kick us off with, of course, the obvious choice of the classic, the one that started the genre off in America, George Romero's original Night of the Living Dead. I feel like that's gonna come up on yours and Matt's as well. I have a feeling about that. Not saying it's definitely gonna happen, but yeah, like I said, that was really the one that kind of like kicked the whole zombie movie genre off. I can't even say like just in the States. I think like even the Italian movies and everything like that were following the lead of George Romero. So that's number one pick. The number two pick is 28 Days Later.
Oh, really good.
Which is ironic because when that movie first came out, I hated it.
Really?
I hated the concept of it being like a rage virus. I thought that was stupid. But as time went on and I gave it a couple more shots and everything like that, just like Danny Boyle's cinematography. Like Danny Boyle is a genius director. So like his cinematography in that movie, Cillian Murphy's acting, like Brendan Gleeson, like everybody, everything in that movie was just pretty much spot on. There's a lot of great actors. The direction was great. The atmosphere of it was great. I love the way that like it's kind of shot to look like almost like a home movie kind of thing, like it's shot on like a DV cam.
Yeah.
But like not one of the high end cinema DV cams that they were using at the time. Like just like like something you would buy at Best Buy for like $300. So I really dug Troy. I grew to dig 28 Days Later once I was able to get past the whole rage virus thing. My number three pick is Wreck.
Ooh.
Which
yeah, good one.
The original version that Quarantine was a remake of.
That's good.
Very solid found footage movie. I dug how it's like isolated to like a lot of zombie movies get isolated to one area, but you have like this. They're quarantined off in this building. They don't know what's going on. Very tense. Very solid story. Very solid. Like, the acting in it again was very great. I'm going to round out my top five with two comedy ones, though. Shaun of the Dead and Zombieland.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, Shaun of the Dead, just because... Again, Edgar Wright is a fucking genius. What he did to subvert the zombie movie genre. Like, even though he was subverting the genre, he still made a very solid zombie movie. I love the performance in it. That was my first experience with Nick Frost and Simon Pegg.
Right.
Very well written, the jokes were very on point. Edgar Wright's style of editing and the way everything kind of like clicks together like that was awesome. So it was a very solid movie. And then Zombieland was just funny. Like I just thought it was funny. And since it technically is a zombie movie, it qualifies. So I dig it. Like I thought it was hilarious.
I like your picks, man. I really do. I'll tell you right now, Wreck is good. Wreck 3 is fucking good. If you get a chance to see Wreck 3 was really good. Because I love how they went from...
The Wreck series in general was great.
I still got to watch the fourth one where the girl from the original is on the ship, but...
You can skip 4.
Yeah, you sure? Come on.
It's pretty bad.
Damn.
It's really bad.
But I really did love 3. I love how 3 went from the camera, first person view to an like actual cinematic experience. I enjoyed the shit out of that movie. Oh, good, solid choices, Chris. Matt, what about you? I think we might have a couple of the same things there.
I threw in some surprises with this one, so there'll be some unexpected ones. Just want to also start off by saying I also hated 28 Days Later when I first saw it, but I've grown to really, really appreciate that movie. Anyway, into my list. Starting off at number 5, we got Zombie, or Zombie 2. Lucio Fulci, 1979, I think, Italian zombie movie. Really cool, really, like, it's cheesy and bad, but it's also, like, kind of gritty and over the top, and there's this cool scene where this girl gets like a big splinter in her eye, and there's a zombie versus a shark underwater, and it's just a cool movie that acts as sort of an unofficial prequel to Dawn of the Dead, because it was advertised in Italy as a sequel to Dawn of the Dead, which I always thought was really cool. The makeup is still, I think, really holds up for that time, for even now, just for a low budget movie. I think it's, I love that one. What else do I got? Number 4 would be Dead Alive, Peter Jackson's second directing effort.
After Bad Taste.
Yep, after Bad Taste. And yeah, I mean, what is, as over the top as you can get. Like, you watched Evil Dead 2, and it was like, I can top that. And yeah, just the amount of gore, the jokes, just like I kick ass for the Lord. Like, that's just the coolest shit to me, just ever.
That is the coolest shit ever. I love it.
It's a movie that really holds up, that I'd really like to see him revisit to some degree, whether it be like some kind of special edition or something like that. Yeah, it's just a movie that like I make a point to like show all my friends that one. Just
can't go wrong with cutting 2 zombies with a lawnmower.
Nope.
Absolutely.
Party's over. I love that shit.
Or that fucking baby.
Come on, that baby's cool.
Number 4 would be number 3, excuse me, the original Dawn of the Dead. Probably the zombie movie that I've seen the most. Maybe that's one of the zombie movies I've seen the most. I mean, it's classic. It's tried and true. You know, it's a classic for a reason. It still holds up. Even now, I think there's some of the effects that I get, like, even though the blood looks like melted orange crayons and the effects are kind of cheesy, some of the gore actually makes me cringe a bit still. I just love it. You know, it was a good statement for the time that still really holds up. And, you know, I think saying Dawn of the Dead kind of goes hand in hand with the remake too, which was equally as awesome, just for a different way. And yeah, I'm sure neither of you have any arguments about that. Number 2 is one that I fully expect to be on your list, right? Is Train to Busan. Just the coolest zombie movie I've seen in I have no idea how long. It's just such a refreshing take on the genre with incredible performances and cool effects, and some of the CG is kind of shoddy here and there, but that's fine. I love the way the zombies move and act, and how it's very grounded and real kind of story. I'm sure you can elaborate on it a lot better than me. And my number 1 pick is Return of the Living Dead. All-time favorite zombie movie ever. Hands down. Going to see it in the theater next week on 35mm.
Die.
Nice.
Be jealous. Be very jealous. Like punk rock zombies. What more do you need to say? You know, it's fucking killer soundtrack. Love the humor. I love the cast behind it. I love the crew. You know, it's directed by the writer of Alien. You know, it's like co-written by the story was written by the dude who co-wrote the original Night of the Living Dead. What more can I say? It's a fantastic movie that is so unbelievably 80s, and everything about it just works to the best degree. And yeah, that's my list.
Wowzers. Both you monkey butts then leave me with shit. God damn it, I ain't got nothing surprising on my list. You fuckers took everything from me. Right from within my soul. God damn. Look, I ain't knocking nobody's list. I'll tell you right now, the one I wish I would have put on my list is Wreck, because that movie is the shit. But yeah, in no particular order, I'm lying. This is my order. Shaun of the Dead, Train to Busan, Night of the Living Dead, the original, Return of the Living Dead, and of course, Zombie. All 5 of those movies hold a special, special, special place in my heart. Starting with Night, I was scared shit of zombies, man. I just never liked them. And then it was on VH1 on Halloween, they had Night of the Living Bread, and that cracked me up so much. So, and right after that, then they played Night of the Living Dead, the original, and I sat there and I watched the whole thing, and I was like, wow, what the fuck was I missing? This is great. So that goes without saying. The original Night of the Living Dead is a classic, and like Chris said, it really is pretty much what every other zombie movie since then follows. That's what it tries to be. Zombie, Full Cheese Zombie, that movie, I mean, look, we started the show using that music for 25 seconds. No copyrights. There's not much you could say, like, except for what Matt said. You know, you had the great special effect with the girl getting her eye poked out by the giant splinter. And, I mean, honestly, zombies fighting sharks. Yeah, please, a lot of that. That's amazing. That's amazing. But, I mean, I love that movie for everything else. I really like that's a really horrific movie. It's a scary, like Matt said, low budget. It's like guerrilla filmmaking almost. It's dirty. It's a dirty movie. That's what it feels like, and it's scary to this day. But my all-time favorite scene in any zombie movie comes from that movie, and that is the zombies walking across the Brooklyn Bridge at the end. I absolutely love that movie. So many fucking pieces of fan fiction flood from my freaking mind when I see the end of that movie all the time. I absolutely love it. If there's going to be a zombie outbreak, that is how it starts. Going across the Brooklyn Bridge. Then yeah, see, this is where it gets tossed up because I love these 3 movies damn near equally. But I'm going to have to start with the one I seen most recent, the latest movie, and that's Train to Busan. I love this movie. I absolutely love this movie. I remember when I told you, Matt, to watch this movie, and you came back and said, what the hell was that? And I'm like, no, that's impossible. That's not true. There's no fucking way. You totally got me, man. I was like pissed off for a while behind that. I was like, you fucking punk. You're off the podcast for a couple weeks.
Elaborate more just so Chris and just all the listeners kind of get the full picture.
Well, so I was ranting. What was that?
Yeah, I want to hear this story.
So I was ranting and raving about this. Me and Matt, we were doing the G show by ourselves. And I was ranting and raving about this movie. It came out in theaters. I missed it in theaters. I got to watch it though. And I was like, yo, this is absolutely insane. One of the most unconventional zombie films I've ever seen. I could not believe what I was watching. It flipped the genre on its head, yet it maintained everything that makes this genre so much fucking fun. And one of the reasons why I loved it. I mean, I hate running and jumping zombies. I just hate that. I hate that idea. But when it works, it works. And goddamn, it works the best in Train to Busan. So I'm trying to explain this all to Matt. Like, dude, you really need to see this movie. For the love of everything we hold dear, you have to see this movie. And then, bam, it pops up on Netflix. And I'm like, there's no excuse. You got to watch this movie. And then Matt comes back with, like, some bullshit. Meh. You know, like basically, he didn't understand the hype. And I sat back and I said, wait a minute. I'm not like a film critic, but I do know what I love, and I fucking love this. And me and Matt has had numerous conversations about a ton of movies that we both love. So I kind of feel like we have the same taste. And am I slipping with this? Is Train to Busan really not that good? Am I just amping this whole thing up? And I'm like seriously questioning myself when all of a sudden Matt hits me back. No, I'm just kidding. It was fucking fantastic. You motherfucker. So basically, I was questioning my sanity because I couldn't believe Matt didn't like that movie. I was like, for real? What the fuck? This is insane. It was a great film. But Yeah, it turns out Matt was just pulling my leg and yanking my crank at the same time. And I'm glad you liked it. But, Chris, have you seen Train to Busan?
Not yet.
Seriously, man. Because I know you like zombie movies, too.
I keep meaning to, but, like, it's just one of those things where every time I'm talking about it, or, like, somebody brings it up, I don't have the time to watch it at that moment.
Yeah.
And then I forget about it.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, you have some time on your hands coming up, right? Right?
I don't know what you're talking about. Stop putting my personal business out there.
I'm just saying. Maybe we do this. Maybe we watch it together. Maybe we watch Train to Busan together. You know, I'll throw it up on the TV here and put the computer on, and then we just sit there. We'll watch it. We'll commentate. Because that's a really good movie. It has. See, Train to Busan has what the only other movie that comes close is Shaun of the Dead has. It has heart. It has heart. It's a horrifying movie. But where Shaun of the Dead brings levity with comedy, Train to Busan brings levity with heart. It's so fucking good. I can't gush about that movie enough. And the only reason why I don't have it as number one is because it's so recent. And the other movies just had more time to simmer with me for a very long time. Which brings me to number two. And that is, I can't believe I'm even saying this. Shaun of the Dead. Because I love this movie to death. This is the only zombie movie that I actually watched back to back when I got it. And I got home and I put it on at around maybe 11:30 at night. Watched it while I ate a giant bowl of spaghettis and meatballs. I'll never forget this. And as soon as it finished, I looked at the time. I said, I ain't going nowhere. And I put the shit right back on because I could not believe how good this movie was and how much I enjoyed it and how much I felt. Because I thought it was going to be just like a spoof movie. And it wasn't a spoof movie at all. It was a fucking zombie. It was a zombie movie with a romantic twist. And I loved it. And all the characters are so believable. Sean, Ed, like I bought into that. It reminded me of my friends or people I would like to hang out with. They were real. They weren't just goofy people. Yeah, they were goofy. But Ed reminded me of at least 4 people I know back home. Absolutely. Lazy people who do nothing but play video games, smoke, and sell drugs. I know those guys. And granted, you know what I'm saying? I don't think either one of the people I know would answer their phone during a zombie, while they're walking through a fucking horde of zombies. That's retarded. But it was funny, and it like Chris said, it's just one of those things that Edgar Wright does right. Like he just nails it. His timing is perfect. And that movie, that's one of the most quotable movies this side of Star Wars for me, Shaun of the Dead. I mean, like all the time. I quote that shit all the time. That movie put my sister-in-law onto horror movies. She hates horror. That's the movie that put her onto horror movies. And it's not really that scary. But the themes in that movie, the situations they're put in. Sean's plight during that movie is scary and heartfelt and heartbreaking. Watching his mother go, I mean, like, oh, damn, it's rough. And I loved every minute of it. And which brings me to my number one. And I got to agree with you, Matt. It's Return of the Living Dead. And the reason why it's Return of the Living Dead is, I'm not going to say punk rock zombies, but damn it, you talk about one of these movies that come out of nowhere and completely flip everything on its head. What did we have up until then? Night, dawn, day. That was it.
No, day wasn't even out by then.
Day came out after?
I believe so.
Right, I think day was 85, right?
I thought that was 86. 85 or 86. I think Return was 84.
Yeah, it was. It was 84. So so even better. There you go. And then you see that movie and then they still go back to and I think that's why I don't like Day as much as I love Dawn. But Return of the Living Dead, dudes, like, first off, a busted in the damn head. It's got to be one of the greatest lines in a zombie movie ever, in any movie ever. The zombies talked. Already, it's fucking freaky. It's scaring the fuck out of me. Zombies shouldn't talk, let alone talk about why they eat brains because it hurts to be dead. No fucking duh. So right there, I don't want to die now because I don't want to turn into a zombie or just be in pain for the rest of my undead life. That's crazy. And it's just such a cool concept. It's cool little things they threw in there. Plus, the performances for me were just spot on. Every last person. And yeah, it's cheesy and campy, but holy shit, is it done in such a great way. I absolutely love that movie. I watch this movie at least 3 times a year because why the fuck not?
That one particular scene with Trash. You know what I'm talking about with the road players and the...
Oh, what? When she gets naked and dances on the "Tonight We're Gonna Make Love Till We Die"? Yeah.
I
What?
was
Ain't
gonna
nothing
say
wrong with
that,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, nah. Trash shows the titties. The bush pops out. Everything's there. It's visible. It's visible. And massive props to the actress portraying Trash.
Linnea Quigley.
What's her name?
Linnea Quigley.
Linnea. There you go. Thank you for countless hours for young teenage adolescent boys, whatever you want to call them, to have some good times with that sequence right there. I don't know. I love that movie. I fucking love it. So that's my top 5. It's Return, Shaun, Train, Night, and Zombie. Yeah, I got to be that order.
I think the only reason I didn't have Shaun on mine was, I mean, I love that movie to death too. But I just don't think I have the emotional connection that you guys have to it.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point. That's a great way to segue because right now it's time to argue the top 5. Now, I'm gonna say this. I'm pretty sure everything I've got up on my list is getting up there, save for maybe one. But I'm pretty sure that the top 5 I picked is up in there.
We got to throw the doubles in.
The what?
The doubles, you know.
And that's my point.
Shaun is up there. Return of the Living Dead, yeah.
That's my point. I've got every single one. Everything you said, I have. Both of y'all. So I win. Thank you.
Can I change my list to make it a little bit more diverse? Because I got backups. I got 6s and 7s.
Well, no, I will say this though. You can argue why something like Dead Alive deserves to be up there over Wreck or 28 Days Later or even Zombieland for that matter. Because let's be real here. Chris doesn't have Zombie. Chris doesn't have Return of the Living Dead. And he doesn't have Train to Busan, but he didn't see that one. So he can argue against that too and say why 28 Days Later or Wreck belong up in there. Which basically means...
I've kind of already accepted the fact that Zombieland's not making it on the list. Like the collective list.
Yeah, that's why I didn't say it. Why I didn't say it.
Yeah. But again, that was just like a personal, I enjoyed the comedy of that.
Right. But let me ask you, do you feel that 28 Days Later and Wreck can, take out Dead Alive or Zombie? Or even Train... Well, you didn't see Train to Busan, so that's kind of hard.
Yeah, to be honest with you, and probably you guys are going to rag on me a little bit because there's a lot of classic zombie movies I haven't actually seen.
He doesn't like horror, ladies and gentlemen. He's actually afraid.
What the fuck up, right?
Big fan here.
He secretly loves it.
Wow.
Oh, daggers.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Jon Snow. I apologize.
But yeah, so it's hard for me to argue against stuff like Return of the Living Dead and Zombie and everything like that because I wasn't really up on those as a kid. Like I was I liked zombie movies, but I was always more of towards the other end of horror with ghosts and demons and all that shit.
Right.
And slasher films and stuff. That was my bag. I wasn't really checking a lot for zombies. So it's hard for me to argue against some of those films because A, they are classics, and B, I haven't really seen them, so I can't say that my movies are better than those because I don't know. Maybe I would sit down and watch those movies right now and be like, okay, you know what? I'm putting Rec and 28 Days Later off for these movies. But I do feel that there is a case to be made for like 28 Days Later and Rec because they're like, aside from being solid zombie movies, they're just solid films in general.
Yep.
Like, they're very well crafted, very well shot, very well directed. Particularly, like I said, 28 Days Later, because Danny Boyle, like Edgar Wright, is just another person, just has a very distinct style in the way he directs his films. And they're always fucking amazing. And so I think a strong case could be made for that. As just like a solid film. And again, like we all enjoyed Rec. You know, it might not have made your guys' top 5 like it did mine, but we all like. I think there's something to be said for the fact that like when I said it, everybody was, you know, like, yeah, that was a great fucking movie. So things to take into consideration.
Yeah, it's true. I got to be honest, man. Like, Rec kind of slipped past my radar. Like, I really wish it was there because I would have given some thought there. I would have probably flipped the coin between Rec and Zombie. I'll be honest with you, because I do love 28 Days Later. But yeah, I make no questions about no qualms about me being an action type of guy. So I actually like 28 Weeks Later. Just a little bit more than 28 Days. I love 28 Days. I didn't take nothing away from that movie.
Well,
but
that opening sequence at the house in 28 Weeks Later, that was amazing. That house sequence,
absolutely one of the most frightening sequences.
Everything else in that movie, if everything else in that movie was terrible and sucked,
your opinion?
That first 5 minutes would have balanced the whole other 2 hours out.
Yeah, no, that first 5, that shit is just grimy and scary, and yeah, because that's exactly what I don't want from a fucking zombie apocalypse. You know what I mean? That shit, and the fact that when he's running and then they're coming down the hill, and then he starts running faster. What the fuck? That is scary, dude. I was like, yo, run. But
so like, yeah, I feel like me personally, if I'm making a case for my list, I feel like personally that my number 1 pick, the original Night of the Living Dead, I feel just for me is automatic. That's automatic on the top 5 list just because of the fact that it was the thing that, like, without the original Night of the Living Dead, there probably isn't all these other classic movies that we're talking about.
Yeah.
It proved the genre. So I think that's an automatic thing. As far as like 28 Days Later and Rec, you know, yeah, I hope it makes the general top 5. It won't kill me if it doesn't, but I think both movies have strong cases for them. Shaun of the Dead and like Zombieland, whatever. That's just, again, that was my thing. Shaun of the Dead wouldn't surprise me if it makes the top 5. You know, again, I could make a case for like how strong the directing was and everything, but it's not really like a zombie movie in the conventional sense when you think about it. When somebody says like best zombie movies, you're probably thinking like of a straight up horror, where like you're seeing the guts being pulled out and all that stuff and everything.
Dabs got his guts ripped out, his head ripped off, his leg ripped off.
I know, and they do that in the movie, but it's not like what I'm saying. It's not a zombie movie in the conventional sense. So I can see like being a case being made against it being put on our top 5 in general. So 28 Dead, like I feel like Rec above all else deserves like an honorable mention if it doesn't make the top 5 like altogether. But I just feel like Night of the Living Dead just is an automatic on that list.
Now I agree
That's just me.
Now I agree with that, and the reason why I do agree with that, even though it wasn't on your list, Matt, is because without Night of the Living Dead, we would not have Return of the Living Dead.
I have some rebuttals.
Okay.
I guess my rebuttals are mainly for 28 Days and Night of the Living Dead. 28 Days technically isn't a zombie movie; it's an infection movie. If we're splitting hairs here, you know, they're not dead, they're not undead, they're just like super pissed off. You know, they're very much alive. And I think that's kind of throws them out for contention of a zombie movie. It's more of an infection movie, really. Just my personal opinion is very hotly debated.
That's a valid
topic
point.
Within the horror community. That's been going on since the movie came out. So that's just the side of the fence that I'm on with it. And as for Night, as much as I love that movie and appreciate it for it being the originator of this entire genre, it's not better than any of these movies. It's not just because it was the first doesn't mean it should be in the top. Black Sabbath was the first heavy metal band, but they're not the best heavy metal band. It's a damn good movie, but is it better than some of the other ones on our list that are up for debate on whether or not they're in the top 5?
Okay, so now
I wouldn't.
Okay, now then here's where we have to. This is the fight right here. Then it comes down to Night of the Living Dead and Zombie, and the reason why I say that, okay, is because Chris and I have Night of the Living Dead, and you and I, Matt, have Zombie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which one? Now, Chris said he didn't really he hasn't seen Zombie in a long time, if ever. But then I'm going to have to voice my opinion in that and say where I go. But if that's the case, if we got to kick one of those two off, what movie do we put up in there? If not 28 Days Later, it's a valid point. It is an infection movie, because they do starve to death if they don't eat. But the fact that they still eating people, dude, they do eat people.
And I mean, I could technically rebut that rebuttal because while Zombie and the cultural lexicon and everything has been equated to the Living Dead, that's not what a zombie is.
It's a voodoo thing, yeah, but it's
if you want to be technical about it.
but the dead were rising from the grave in Zombie.
No, we're talking about the origin of the word zombie.
Oh, okay, my bad. I thought you were talking about the movie where they do voodoo rituals and shit. My bad. See, I was about to say, Chris did see the movie.
But still, I mean, people in Haiti thought these people were coming back from the dead, even though it was voodoo. So, I mean, it was splitting hairs of a split hair kind of thing. But honestly, I would X out, if my personal opinion, I would X out both Zombie and Night of the Living Dead for contention, and I would be satisfied with throwing Wreck in there, in that spot.
Okay. Again, I mean, I can live with replacing Zombie with Wreck because as much as I do love Zombie, Wreck actually scared me. And that's important. I mean, granted, none of these movies really scared me. Like Train to Busan scared the fuck out of me. It still does. I watched that movie 5 times. I still jump at certain scenes fucking I know it's coming. But again, the only reason why I would leave Night of the Living Dead up there is not because it's the first or the grandfather. It's because if it wasn't for that movie, we would not have Return of the Living Dead, which is my number 1. And that movie references Night of the Living Dead. The whole concept of that movie was behind Night of the Living Dead, as if it was a real thing, a real event that happened, which is one of the reasons why Return of the Living Dead, I love it so much more, because it brought out a bigger mythos to the original Night of the Living Dead. Something like, well, this did happen, and yeah, they just kept it under wraps, and they made a movie about it, and then, of course, they made it Hollywood. I love that idea. That concept was great. And in that regard, I would have to keep Night up there. Because without it, we wouldn't have Return of the Living Dead, or we wouldn't have Dawn of the Dead, or Shaun of the Dead for that matter. You know what I'm saying? It's
well, if we were to do that, if we didn't have this thing, we wouldn't have this awesome thing. So so let's celebrate this thing. So that, in that respect, it's almost saying oh shit, if we didn't have, the Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we wouldn't have Godzilla. Like, fuck yeah, atomic bombs. Like, no.
Oh my God, that's not nowhere near where I was going. That is like one of the worst things to say, dude. Oh my God, what is wrong with you? Holy shit.
That's just my interpretation of your argument.
There's nowhere near that. And I'm not even gonna repeat that, you psycho. You know what?
Like I'm not thinking that, but like that's I feel a comparison of your argument.
No,
I kind of feel like that's not necessarily a good, because like Hiroshima and Nagasaki were real events that happened in the real world, and Japan's reaction to that was to create Godzilla as like an allegory for the terrors of, nuclear radiation and everything like that. Whereas what we're talking about is Night of the Living Dead being a genre originator that set the standard for that genre. So like all these other movies were following it. So it's not like it's, Night of the Living Dead was a real thing that happened in the real world and everybody was like, oh, let's make zombie movies based on like these living corpses that came back and wherever and started eating people. And it's not really kind of the same thing as like, doing Godzilla as a reaction to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This was the movie that set the trend of zombies and popularized it. And so without that movie having been made and making the genre popular, some of these other movies might not have been greenlit by studios.
No, that's totally true, but I don't think that alone makes it a contender for the best zombie movie. I mean, the reasoning of it, like, yeah, it's the originator. It set a standard for a long time. That's why it ends up in the top 10 list or whatever. But it's one of the best zombie movies. It's a good movie. It's a damn good movie. It's a damn good zombie movie, but it's not one of the best to me. So throwing out that whole, respect for where things came from aspect, look at it as a movie, And I think comparatively, it's weaker than some of the other ones. Say Wreck. I mean, Night of the Living Dead is a better movie. It's a better film than Zombie. So I can't really argue that. But it's not a better movie than Wreck. It's not a better movie than Dawn of the Dead. Even I think Dawn of the Dead is the superior film.
I kind of agree with you on that one. I think Dawn of the Dead is a superior film, but the fact is, I didn't have Dawn of the Dead on my list. Like everything you guys threw out, I have on my list. So there's doubles, and Dawn of the Dead wasn't one of those. But Matt, I totally agree with your point. I also agree with what you said when you said Night of the Living Dead is better than Zombie. So Zombies off and Wreck is in, Night of the Living Dead stays. Thanks, Matt. All right, so we got one. We got two. Okay. Now we've got three more. And I want to hear people's arguments with keeping Shaun of the Dead on this list. Or getting it off.
I'd be fine if it was on there. It's just not in my top 5.
And Chris, you and I have it on our top 5 list. It stays. So we've got Shaun of the Dead. Oops, that's wrong. Hang on. Boom. What the bloody? There we go. Shaun of the Dead. We've got Night of the Living Dead because Matt finally came around. We are taking Zombie off of the map because Matt, and we're putting Wreck up there, which I honestly don't have a problem with because, like I said, if I would have really thought about this and gave this some thought, I probably would have had Wreck up in there. Okay, listen, Chris, I gotta be honest with you here. Me and Matt both have this as our number 1. It's gonna stay. Return of the Living Dead ain't going nowhere. And if you feel like you have something you want to rebut, go for it. But
I mean, like I said, I've come to pretty much. I walked into this conversation expecting probably my top 5, with the exception of Night of the Living Dead. I kind of walked in here with my top 5, maybe not necessarily making it to the end. So the fact that Wreck and Shaun of the Dead got on there, I'm satisfied. I'm cool with Return of the Dead, and honestly, if we're gonna round this out, like even though I haven't seen it, I've heard great things, and I'm sure you guys are right that it's a fantastic movie. I'll throw my weight behind Train to Busan as well.
Shit, I ain't got no problem with that. Matt, let me ask you a question. Would you rather Train to Busan, or would you rather Zombie back up there, or Dawn of the Dead?
Ooh, wait, okay, so my choices are Train to Busan, Zombie, or Dawn of the Dead?
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, one of them ain't gonna make it.
Well, obviously. Fuck.
Well, two of them ain't gonna make it.
Well, no, I mean, out of these three, I want to debate two. One of them ain't gonna be in this debate, but I'm gonna let Matt choose, and don't pick the Stay Puff.
I think I know what you mean by Stay Puft too. Good. Yeah, I think I would have to go with Dawn just because of your reasons of Train to Busan not being your number one spot. Like it's too new. You know, I've had my entire life to sit with Dawn of the Dead. I've only had less than a year to sit with Train.
Yeah,
So I gotta go with Dawn.
That logic is sound in my book only because I do agree with you. I've had Dawn of the Dead with me now for like over 20 years since I first seen it, and that is one of those movies that I constantly went back to. I actually watched Dawn of the Dead about a month ago. It's on YouTube, and I was like, oh, good. I don't even have to get up and get my Blu-ray. I just throw it on YouTube and sit here and watch it.
You have the Blu-ray of it?
No, I lied. I have the DVD though. I meant Blu-ray because I wanted it to sound nice. I wanted it to sound.
If you find the Blu-ray, pick that shit up because it's out of print and worth a pretty penny.
I'll buy it.
Same with Dead Alive. A used copy of Dead Alive on Blu-ray goes for around $100.
Yeah, I got that on DVD, and even though it's like one of my favorite gore fest, it's not up in my favorite zombies. It was in my mind. That was before Wreck. All things considered, it's crazy. But Dawn of the Dead, it is one of those movies that it did define the genre. Whereas Night brought the genre to the limelight, Dawn defined the genre. So that being said, though, Train to Busan took the genre, turned that sumbitch sideways, and stuck it straight up my candy ass in such a way that I was like, yo, what am I watching here? Why am I watching this? And why is it so fucking good? Why can't somebody here make a movie like Train to Busan the way we used to get movies like that? Return, Night, Dawn. We don't get those here in the States. We get 28 Days Later in England. We get Shaun of the Dead from England. We get Wreck from Spain. You know, you get Zombie from Italy. Why can't we get something like that here again in this time? And Train to Busan, as much as I love Dawn of the Dead, Train to Busan seriously changed the game. And this is, I guess, where we differ, Matt, is because I have a bit of age on you. And, you know, dealing with children where you don't have to deal with that just yet. There's more of an emotional connection and an emotional gut punch from Train to Busan than there is in Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead, I get my kicks. And Dawn of the Dead has one of my favorite endings of all time when this dude says, you know what, fuck it. I'm not going to turn into zombie bait. I'm out of here. And then that music kicks in and it's just like, yeah, punch everybody in the face and get on that helicopter and fly away with the pregnant flyboy's wife. But damn, Matt, I swear. See, this is Chris. This is where I wish you would have seen Train to Busan, because then you would have been that damn tiebreaker. Because I really am leaning towards Train to Busan, only because it's more of an emotional gut punch for me. Yet I totally understand and agree with you, Matt, with where Dawn of the Dead has been with us for a very, very long time. God. Oh, shit, that scared me to death. Chris, don't do that again.
Well, I think I'm going to throw everyone for a loop, and I'm going to go for Dawn of the Dead as well.
Yeah.
The remake.
Well, I'll take it.
Yo, that was gonna be on my list. It really was. I love that movie. I love Zack Snyder's vision with that. I love what James Gunn wrote. I love the changes they made. It's the same concept but modern. I love the special effects, and again, that was the first time I seen zombies running, and I hated it. But I hated it because I'm scared. Zombies shouldn't run. They run. Kill yourself. There's no reason. They're gonna get you, especially me. I'm fucking fat and out of shape. They're gonna get me. Which is damn. All right. You know what? Forget we said anything in the last 15 minutes. Train to Busan stays.
Don't be that guy.
I am that guy. Believe you me, I'm that guy.
So don't be the guy like, oh, you know what? This is my podcast, so we're gonna go with my choice.
Oh no, I wasn't.
It's gone.
I wasn't gonna do that. I wasn't gonna do that until the It podcast. When I was like, Chris, you're wrong. Oh yeah, you know what? The top 5 zombie movies. I love Train to Busan so much, but because Chris, you didn't really get to see that to break this tie, so you can chime in with your opinions. I'm gonna give it to Dawn of the Dead. It has to do it. Wow. Okay. Well then, there it is. In no particular order: Shaun of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, Return of the Living Dead, and Wreck. Which now seems like it doesn't even belong there. Holy shit. All right, guys. We've got our top 5. Let's put them in order. I'll let y'all do it. Chris, your particular order.
I'm going to put, just for me, I'm going to put Wreck at number 1 and everything else can go where the fuck you guys want it.
I hate her. Fucking got me to take Train to Busan out.
Because Wreck was my choice. Because Wreck was my choice. It's going to the number 1 spot.
Oh, shit. He doesn't really mean that, ladies and gentlemen. He's just delirious. And delusional.
Wreck, Shaun of the Dead, and then the other 3, you do what you want.
So Wreck, Shaun of the Dead, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. my choices at the top 2, and then everything else, fuck it.
All right. Matt.
I would go Return, Dawn, Shaun, Night, and then Wreck.
And I would go Return, Shaun, Dawn, Night, and Wreck. So
all right, so Chris, be the tiebreaker for whether Shaun or Dawn goes in.
It's Shaun. He said Wreck, Shaun, and then it didn't matter. So
you're right.
All right, so there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Ladies and gentlemen, the G Show's definitive top 5 zombie movies until next year when Train to Busan has more time to settle in goes like this. Coming in at number 1, Return of the Living Dead. Classic, and all classics love that movie. Coming in at number 2, the greatest zombie movie from across the pond, Shaun of the Dead. I love it. Chris loves it. Matt loves it. We love it. Coming in at number 3, George Romero's, dare I say, masterpiece, Dawn of the Dead. Can't argue with that. Coming in at number 4, George Romero's original classic, Night of the Living Dead. And coming in at number 5, a solid entry that I really wish was on my mind when I made this list up. And that is Wreck from Spain. Thank you, Chris, for that one. And that will do it for our top 5. Ladies and gentlemen, if y'all agree or disagree, put it in the comments. Let us know. But that's how it goes for now. So, Chris, thank you for being... What?
I'm going to be the first one in the comments like, how is Wreck at the bottom of the... This is despicable. This is disgrace.
Oh, man.
Number 5? Number 5? Really?
It's funny. The one
and everybody else who listens to this is gonna be like, if they put fucking Wreck on there, oh my god.
or not even. They're gonna be like, what the hell is Wreck? Is that quarantine ripoff?
Oh, I will fight someone.
I actually really like the Quarantine.
I did too.
It's a good movie.
It's not the Evil Dead remake or the Night of the Living Dead remake, but it's a decent enough remake. It's serviceable, but the original Wreck is leaps and bounds better. Wreck 3 should have been on that list. Just saying. But anyway, yeah, Chris, man, thanks for joining us today, man.
No problem.
And Matt, thank you for joining us. Thank you. Welcome back.
Yeah, I'm back, bitches. Gotta deal with my lousy opinions more often.
That's right. So that'll do it for us. Join us next week as we give our number 3 pick for our top 5 all-time favorite horror movies. Also, we're going to be doing our top 5 practical effects in a horror movie. We talked about that last week, Chris and myself. We're going to go in and do the top 5. I'm sure that's going to be a fun one. We already went through a bunch, especially Matt's pick from last week. So just be on the lookout for that. That'll be coming up next week. I am G1. This is the Geek Out. See you later. That was fucking terrible.